was selected to be the demon that he is, to keep the culture in line so the industry could continue to for all of its precious jewels. We have too many laws selected for this job. It's been going on before Diddy. See, people keep looking at him like he's the Sputnik that came out of nowhere. This is someone who was designed to be what he is. We got to stop making Diddies. And if we're going to do that, then we got to go back. We got to go back to even further, the mentors of these people. Because Diddy was taught how to do what he does systematically. Davis has been his greatest teacher.
TLC had generated on Crazy Sexy $75 million, and they gave us $50,000 a piece. I was like, what the hell? So, of course, Lisa was the ringleader.
Like, we need to go get our money. I need to know where my MF and money's at.
So, you know, she was locked up in the diversion center for burning down the house. He was the getaway car. So we went up there and held everybody hostage, and Puffy was the one that snitched us out. Yo, B, yo, your girl's up here mad bugging, yo. And I was like, oh, are you gonna snap, dog? But he called it, yeah, because we kicked him out of the meeting.
Well, wait a minute. Mind your damn business.
Sometimes a single headline does more than dominate the news. It causes people to revisit decades of history through an entirely different lens. Old interviews suddenly begin trending again. Forgotten photographs reappear across social media. Public appearances that once seemed ordinary are analyzed frame by frame, and conversations that had faded into the background return almost overnight. That's exactly what's happening now, as renewed attention has fallen on music executive Clive Davis and Sean Diddy Combs. While countless posts online are attempting to connect the dots between their long professional relationship and Diddy's ongoing legal challenges, separating fact from speculation has become increasingly difficult. The louder the conversation becomes, the easier it is for rumors to blend with verified information. So why has this story captured so much attention? Why are people suddenly looking back at events that happened years, even decades ago? And why has one of the most influential relationships in the music business become the focus of so much online discussion? Today, we're taking a closer look at the history, the public record, and the online theories that continue to fuel debate. Rather than chasing headlines, we'll explore what is actually known, what remains uncertain, and why this conversation has grown far beyond a single news cycle.
I think going to go to the Clive Davis party.
Yes.
It was a surreal event where Whitney's body was still in the hotel, and there was this sort of party where apparently half the room were in tears, the other half were kind of partying.
To have a party in a building where the person whose life he had influenced so enormously, and whose life had been affected by her. So they were like, I don't understand how.
Before we begin, if you enjoy in-depth documentaries that explore the biggest stories in entertainment, music, and popular culture, be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We focus on context, verified reporting, and thoughtful analysis, helping you understand not just what's happening, but why it matters. To understand why these names continue appearing together, it's important to go back to a very different era in the music industry. Long before streaming platforms transformed how artists reached audiences, success often depended on a small group of influential executives who had the experience, connections, and resources to help shape careers. Among the most recognizable of those executives was Clive Davis, whose career spanned decades and whose influence reached across multiple genres. Throughout his time in the industry, Davis became associated with discovering talent, supporting major artists, and helping guide some of music's biggest careers. His reputation made him one of the most respected and sometimes most discussed figures in entertainment.
I don't believe that she would have said, the show must go on. She was the kind of woman that would say, stop everything. I'm not going to be there. You know, I don't know what could motivate a person to have a party in a building where the person whose life he had influenced so enormously and whose life had been affected by her. So they were like, I don't understand how that party from Miami at about 5:30. As soon as I hit the tarmac, I found out, I heard, and I couldn't I couldn't put on makeup. I couldn't get dressed. I couldn't do anything. I was paralyzed.
Around the same period, another ambitious figure was beginning to make a name for himself. Sean Diddy Combs entered the music business with a reputation for relentless determination and an ability to recognize commercial potential. Rather than limiting himself to performing, he built a career as a producer, executive, entrepreneur, and brand builder. Over time, his influence expanded well beyond music into fashion, television, and business, making him one of the most recognizable names in entertainment. As his career grew, industry observers frequently mentioned the support and guidance he received from experienced executives who had already established themselves at the highest levels of the business. Clive Davis was often included in those conversations because their professional relationship became visible through industry events, interviews, and public appearances over many years. That history alone isn't unusual. The entertainment world has always been built on mentorship, collaboration, and professional networks. Established executives regularly work alongside emerging talent, offering advice, opening doors, or introducing artists to opportunities that might otherwise remain out of reach. Countless successful careers have been influenced by these kinds of relationships, and many music historians point to them as an essential part of how the industry has evolved. Yet when public attention shifts towards someone already making headlines, even ordinary professional relationships often begin receiving far greater scrutiny than they did before. That's precisely what has happened in recent months. As Diddy's legal proceedings continue to generate worldwide coverage, nearly every chapter of his career has been re-examined. News reports, documentaries, podcasts, and social media discussions have encouraged audiences to revisit moments from the past in search of additional context. Old interviews have accumulated millions of new views. Archived photographs have circulated across multiple platforms. Public appearances that once attracted little attention are now being interpreted in dramatically different ways, depending on who is looking at them. Some people see nothing more than two influential figures attending the same industry events. Others believe those moments deserve closer examination. The important distinction is that interpretations are not the same as evidence, and speculation should never be confused with confirmed fact.
The internet, however, rarely rewards patience. Modern social media platforms are designed to keep conversations moving, and emotionally charged stories often spread much faster than carefully verified reporting. Within minutes of a headline appearing, thousands of creators begin offering explanations, predictions, and theories. Some provide useful historical context, while others rely on assumptions or incomplete information. As these videos and posts circulate, they can create the impression that a widely repeated claim has become established simply because so many people are discussing it. In reality, repetition does not turn speculation into fact. It's a reminder of how important it is to distinguish between documented events and conclusions that have not been supported by reliable evidence. This is one of the reasons the current discussion has become so fascinating. At its core, it isn't only about two individuals. It's also about how power, influence, and mentorship operate inside industries where relationships often play a significant role in shaping careers. Throughout music history, executives have helped introduce artists to producers, investors, labels, and collaborators. Some observers view these relationships as examples of experienced professionals recognizing talent and helping artists succeed. Others argue that they illustrate how much influence a relatively small number of decision-makers have historically held. Both perspectives continue to be debated, and neither can be fully understood without considering the broader history of the entertainment business. As those debates unfold, online communities often begin connecting separate events into a single narrative. A photograph from an award show, an interview from years ago, and a recent headline may all be presented together as though they tell one complete story. Sometimes those connections reveal meaningful historical context. Other times, they simply reflect the human tendency to search for patterns, especially during moments of uncertainty. That's why approaching these discussions carefully is so important. Looking back at public events can help us understand how careers developed, but it cannot reveal private conversations, personal motivations, or hidden intentions that were never documented. Even so, curiosity remains high. Every new headline seems to encourage another wave of questions. Why are older interviews suddenly resurfacing? Why are people re-examining professional relationships that have existed in public view for decades? And why has this particular story captured so much attention compared to countless others from the music industry's past? Those questions don't have simple answers, yet they reveal something larger than any one headline. They show how quickly public perception can change, how the internet reshapes historical narratives in real time, and how audiences naturally search for deeper meaning whenever familiar names return to the spotlight. And that's where the story becomes even more interesting, because once we look beyond the headlines and examine how public opinion has shifted over the years, we begin to understand why this conversation continues to grow, and why so many people believe the next chapter could be just as significant as everything that's already happened.